Hello everybody, this is Lisa with LRF Creations. Today I'm going to show you how I prepare my charcuterie board slash cutting board to prepare it for painting and also for epoxy resin. What you will see is I will show you an example. This one is one that I've completed, and in the video you will see some points where I will show you what it looks like after I've taped it up and have already painted it, as well as taken the epoxy. I did the epoxy on it and when I'm pulling the tape off and whatnot. So here is a board that I have not currently done anything to, but I need to prepare it for doing the pour on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use like a chalk pencil. This is just a chalk pencil that I have. You can find these at any hobby store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Just go and look in the sewing section. They should have chalk pencils there. And what I do is I create my line. Where do I want to put the pour? I like to do the pour on the handle part and part of the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do probably something kind of simple for this one. Okay, so that's my line. It's just a real light line. If the paint goes over it, the paint goes over it, not a big deal, but this is more to help guide me whenever I'm tearing off my tape so I can put it down and I have some type of a guideline there. If you should not go over it with paint, you can get a wet rag and just wipe it off because it is water soluble, it's non-toxic, it's just chalk, okay? So here I've got two types of tape. First is the green frog tape. The other tape, I forgot the name of the tape, but it's a tape that's commonly used for epoxy resin when people are sealing up, like they're making a mold and they're sealing the edges of the mold so the epoxy resin doesn't leak out. This is what they use. And I will put this, once I find the information, the name of it, I will put that down in the description so you guys can see. I found that this tape is the best so far that I've used to stick to wood. I know that's a big issue because whenever I tried this or I tried the blue 3M tape, it just doesn't want to stick very well. The other thing that I have is the Glad Press and Seal. The reason why I like this is because I can cut off however long I want after I've made an initial line for tape between the two tapes, and I can stick it on there. It will cover the rest because I don't know about you, but I have a tendency of spreading paint to other parts of the board that I don't want to have to go back and clean up later. So to protect the rest of the board that's not being painted, I will use this. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this tape and we're going to go around this edge here of the line that I made. Then I will use the frog tape, sorry, not 3M, but frog tape, and do another layer further down where it's sticking to this particular tape. Since I made a curved edge, it's going to take a little time to get this. So you'll see me put a few down, a few little stickies down, but then I'll speed it up. Okay, so my line is roughly here. And there we go. See how easy it sticks? Very well. What I also like to do I like to get something that has like a flat edge and burnish the tape down so it sticks really well. I have a Cricut machine. This came with my Cricut machine, so I use this quite frequently. You can get anything that has a hard edge, like a credit card or something plastic, some plastic edge, and do that. So this tape does really well at sticking to itself as well, but it sticks so good. Even without me having to press it down, it sticks really well to the wood. Versus if you were to look at just putting the frog tape down, I'll show you what that tends to look like. I'm sure many of you have experienced this. You go to put the piece down, you burnish and burnish, and it doesn't want to give a good seal. But I tend to see quite frequently that it won't stick because maybe there's something in the wood that's got like maybe some of the mineral oil that's preventing it from getting a good seal. And if it does stick, quite frequently the edges start coming up like this, at least for me, and then I end up with paint underneath some of these edges. So, and look, this comes up so easy, so I know it didn't have a good seal in general. Okay, let's see here. All right. Okay, so I've got one edge taped. Not too pretty, but it's fine. I've got a seal there. That's what I want. I want it to be nice and sealed. Okay. And it comes over the back, and that's fine. Let's try the other side. See if I can make that one look a little bit prettier. Oops. There we go. Okay, so I've got my edges done. Next, I'm going to do my 3M tape. And I'm going to come up like so. And now it sticks better because it has something to stick to versus the wood. The wood it just doesn't want to stick to. Okay, so I've got one layer there. And what I'll do is I will come to the back of this where there's going to be paint and resin from where I've taped it here on up. I will just use this tape only. Next, I get my razor or box cutter and I trim off this excess, and I also cut the hole in the center there. So as you can tell, this is very sharp, so please be very, very careful when you're using one of these. Yeah. There we go. And it's trimmed. Now I'm going to cut the center here. It's a little bit tougher because it's such a small opening. There we go. Okay, just trimming up the little scraggles that are in there. Okay, so now I have my opening. Okay, now, as I was saying before, I don't know about you, but I tend to get very messy whenever I'm painting. I end up with paint on my gloves, and I don't want to grab anywhere on the rest of this board and get paint on it, because then that's going to make more cleanup for me later. So I use the Glad Press and Seal. what I'm going to come around and do. And as you can see, I'm going to have it stick to the 3M tape there. I mean the frog tape. Sorry, frog tape. Fold it over. And it's going to stick here. My front is sticky. Sorry, this is sticky. Let me see if I can get something on there so it's not sticking so much. There we go. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do is use my frog tape to cover up the sides there. So, back side is taped off, sealed off, covered completely. Front side, taped off for where I want just the paint and the resin to go. But again, this first time that I'm taping it like this is only going to be for the paint. I probably will have to go back and do another layer of this dark green plastic translucent green tape for the resin. And I do want to show you guys, I have another one, just a second. Here's another cutting board. I taped it like I did that one that I just showed you first before I poured the paint. And as you can see, here's the green tape. Whenever it came time to pull up the tape on this side, I did not pull up the tape on the back. I left this tape here on the back. And as you can see, what I've done is I went through and I had green tape, the frog tape coming up to a certain point here. And so what I did was I pulled back a few of the layers so that I could tape down another layer, a fresh layer of this green plastic tape. And as you can see, I have a little line that I defined. It's probably not completely same width all the way across, but that's okay. What I did was I cleaned up the edges on my paint because there was a few kind of scraggly edges. Nothing came under the tape. It was just that whenever I was pulling up the tape at the time, the tape was coming up, but the paint that was on top of that tape didn't pull off easily. So I had to get the razor blade and trim away. It's not that it came underneath the tape at all. It did not seep under. So I just want to be clear about that. It did not seep under the tape at all. It just, whatever came over as an overflow when I painted, I was pulling the tape up and I had these little ragged edges that were just popping off because the tape was coming off clean, but the little edge of the paint was still there. So I just took my razor blade, and I just trimmed it off to get the nice even edges there. And what I will do a little bit later today, I'm going to pour my layer of resin. It's going to go over this complete side, and I don't want it to go past this line here. So what we'll see is how it turns out, and I will try to record that for you guys so you can see what happens. And again, it's pretty much the same. The only difference about this one versus the one I just showed you is that I did not use the Glide press and seal just because I couldn't find it at the time whenever I was doing the covering, but it still works just fine because once you get the initial layer of the, you can use either 3M or frog tape. Once you get that and it sticks, you can continue taping, overlapping from the previous one. So, and there we have it. This one's ready to have the epoxy resin poured. The other one is ready for paint. I hope this helps. Hello. So here it is. This is the day after I've put the resin on. It's been almost 24 hours since I did the resin pour. The resin itself is a little bit soft. This is some that dripped off. It's a little bit soft and squishy, and that's okay. So I'm gonna peel the tape off. I've already started peeling some of the tape off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now what I have left is I have the epoxy resin tape that's still there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use my heating gun here. And I'm going to warm this up a little bit so it'll soften it just a little bit more so it'll be easier to pull this tape up. Let me toss this. And as you can see, as I'm pulling this up, it's creating a line, and because I've got so many tiny pieces, it's doing it per piece. So you can see there. I know that there's a little bit of resin here, that's okay. We'll show you how to clean that up. So I've got a edge that's kind of irregular, but that's okay. I'm going to heat this up one more time, and then what I'm going to do is use my straight edge, my box cutter here, and I'm going to go through and just kind of cut it and trim it so it looks nice and pretty. Okay, so I've made my line all the way through. I just barely went on the inside of the original line. Now here's where it gets a little iffy. So I finished doing the edge of the epoxy resin. I've then taken a sandpaper. I've got some 220 sandpaper, and I've gone through and I've sanded it down. Now what I'm going to do is flip it over, use my heat gun to warm up this epoxy resin and pull it off. So I have a damp cloth here, damp paper towel. I'm going to use this to wipe down all the stuff that I sanded down from the thing. Okay, so I've wiped down the cutting board, and as you can see, if you run your hand over it, you can feel the grain popping back up from what I had previously sanded, and that's okay. What I want to do now, since I've been working on this and sanding on it, and it's kind of looking a little dry, you want to keep your wood conditioned. That keeps the life of the wood for you. What I like to use, and everybody has their own preference, I like to use mineral oil. In this bottle I have mineral oil, and the reason why I put it in this bottle is because the original bottle that it came in had developed a small hole in it that I luckily discovered in time, so I could put it in something else and not lose all of it. So what I do is I put a little bit of mineral oil and just wipe it around front and back. The mineral oil is food safe. Other names it goes by is cutting board oil. You can get it at some grocery stores, carry it. I know probably like Home Depot, Lowe's carries it. And again, this just conditions your wood. When it comes to maintenance, if you're selling these, you want to tell people to hand wash only, not to cut on the epoxy resin portion. If they are going to cut anything, it should only be on the wood portion of it. And they can also purchase the mineral oil as well, or cutting board oil, whatever you want to call it, same thing. And every so often they want to do a layer of the oil on the board to condition it, and it will preserve the life of the board. So after every one of these that I do, I always go back over it with a nice layer of the mineral oil and just let it soak. And look, it's bringing back the nice pretty color to it. And again, I'll go over the back here. You can do 2 to 3 coats of this if you think it needs it. Just give it some time for the wood to absorb it. You don't want to do 2 to 3 coats immediately on it. You want to give it some time to just absorb. And then come back and check on it. Do another coat. I like to do about 3 coats on it personally. So this would be coat 1. Come back in a few hours and check it again. See how it's doing. And there we go. You can tell the front has already absorbed quite a bit of the oil. Yes, it's going to get a little bit oily on the back, but that's okay on your hands. Just put it somewhere where you can let it sit and rest and absorb the oil. And I'm done. I hope this was helpful for you.